Excited to have Ryan Vanhoy joining the pod, a region coach of the year, a conference coach of the year, and of course, a conference champion with the Ole Miss cross country team, a North Carolina native, a member of the UNC track squad during his collegiate career. Coach, I'm always interested in how someone gets their start in a field. When did you start with the distance running in your youth? And when did you decide that coaching runners was going to be a viable career?
Thanks for having me, Seth. Happy to be on the podcast here with you. It's kind of a long answer to that, but the short version would be I started running as a sophomore in high school. I had a friend of mine who was on the cross country team. I didn't really play any sports my freshman year. He invited me to come to practice. Once I got there, I just really liked the vibe of the sport, the team aspect. I had a coach that I really connected with that year that really got me motivated and interested in the sport. And so that's what led me to being able to run in college, which, I was the type of guy that was just lucky to be on the roster at Carolina. So I was one of those guys that was hanging on for dear life. So I got a chance to be around a high level program there and got my coaching start there as well after graduating. So just a kind of a progression from high school to college to getting on the coaching staff there as a volunteer and really just starting my career there as a grad student.
Well, you see the success you had almost immediately too. You go to Northeastern and you coach a guy like Eric Jenkins to All-America status, a conference championships with Northeastern. When you reflect on that as you build a program here in Oxford, how important do you think that that early success in your career was as you established your style, your ethics, whatever it would be as a coach?
Yeah, I think, obviously looking back now, it's funny if you think of, what you were doing 10 years ago as a coach versus what you do now. There's certainly, for me, there's been a big evolution, I would say. But, I think especially coaching at Northeastern specifically, that was a great experience simply because, walking into that program, there were some good guys there. I was actually out of coaching for about 6 months before I got the job at Northeastern and, really only got that job because I knew someone who knew the head coach there who vouched for me. So
that's how it always goes.
Yeah. Luckily there was someone looking out for me there. But really just walking into a program that had some good guys and girls that were, hardworking, just having a chance to really coach on my own for the first time. I had one semester at Carolina. My last semester there on the coaching staff, I was the actual distance coach because the guy that I reported to had left at mid-year for a different job. And so I kind of got thrust into that role at the age of like 23, which most people, you're not really coaching your own Power 5 program at 23. So certainly wasn't quite ready for that at that stage, but sort of a trial by fire, having to figure out things as you go. From recruiting, coaching, mentoring, all those things. So I consider myself lucky that I did start coaching so early. I think a lot of times some people who are way better athletes than me, would run for a number of years and then maybe transition into coaching. I kind of knew right away when I got to college that A, I wasn't very good at running, so I knew I didn't have much of a future there. But B, I was really passionate about the sport. I just loved being around a program. And coaching was something that I thought I could really get interested in. So I got a head start on a lot of people simply because the second I graduated, I started coaching at the age of like 21. So, now I'm turning 34 next week. I've been coaching for 12, 13 years, but most people that are in their mid 30s probably don't have a ton of experience. So I feel like I'm young, but also experienced. So definitely something that I look back on fondly, but certainly would do things a lot differently now, 10 years down the line, but certainly invaluable experience getting started at such a young age.
I think you bring something up that I didn't even put two and two together with, and I'm sure a lot of fans don't as well. And it's the same that when I went to my first couple of tennis matches here in Oxford, it's kind of the same thing, but you don't often think about the team aspect of a sport like cross country or tennis. It's kind of like that individual mindset, but you highlighted it. It's so fun to see runners supporting one another or cheering for each other, whether they're in the squad that week or not. It's the same as I said with tennis, where you hear guys yelling across courts to help their teammates go in an individualized sport. What is it about that team aspect that gives you so much enjoyment about seeing the guys and gals support each other?
Yeah, I really think that just comes with the territory of our sport in general. A lot of what we do in terms of development, it's very much an individual sport in a lot of ways where you have to put in the work on your own. How good you can be ultimately depends a lot on how much work you can do how motivated you are. So certainly there is a very big individual piece to what we do, but the broader team aspect that ties all those individuals together, I mean, I think that's why you see people cheering for each other, and, just the fun environment around our program in particular is because you know how hard people have to work to be good at this, because you're also doing the same thing. So it's easy to celebrate other people's success because you see how hard they're also working. So I think that's probably the one thing that's really a common bond between everyone on the team, is that you just know how much work it really takes to be successful in the sport. So you like to celebrate other people's success when you know how hard they've been working and see the results they're getting back.
How often do you still run personally?
Not as much as I should. Not as much recently, but during COVID, I was running like a good amount, like most days of the week. Now, if I get out once or twice a week, that's a good week for me, sadly. But hopefully, as the weather starts to break here, that number goes up as the temperature goes down, usually.
I talked to Waleed. I interviewed him, now a professional runner from Ole Miss. I asked him the same question when COVID had started up, and I said, I need to start running. I mean, that's the only form of exercise a lot of people are getting with gyms closing. And what kind of advice do you have? And he did a really good job of, hey, just do what you can, limited amounts. You'll get better each time you go. Do people often ask you, because they know you coach distance, like, hey, I gotta get out there and run? And do you often have to give advice to just civilian runners?
I wouldn't say it's super common. Most people that know me well know I'm not a super avid exerciser. So I think a lot of times they kind of know that anyway, but I mean, no more than anything else.
What makes a good distance runner? And I think you can give a boring answer and say it's all about, well, I can look at their times and tell you the less amount of time it takes them to cross the finish line, the better runner they are. But there's something innately insane about the desire you talk about wanting to better yourself individually and running all the time. And as much as you do, when you're looking at runners, how much of it is, this is their time, this is their physical makeup, but also this is their mental makeup?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of that, I think, ties into how we recruit. Honestly, in running, there are multiple types of talent. Obviously, you have some people that are really naturally talented in terms of, just how good they are at running, or they have really great running form. You have some people that are incredibly durable, so they can run a lot. They can put a lot of work in without being injured. You have some people that are super highly motivated, so that's a talent. So, looking for people that have a good combination of those three things, but also too, and especially when you're recruiting at the high school level, you have a very wide range of how much someone's actually training. So, it's a lot more than just what the time says on a piece of paper or results or a website. You really have to kind of dig and find out, what are they doing to run those types of performances? What's their background? How much are they running per week? What types of workouts are they doing? How hard are they training? Because, the fastest person in high school doesn't always equal the best college recruit. So I'm really trying to do some evaluating and looking beyond just the times on a piece of paper, but also finding out more about them, their background, personality, all those kind of things. So it's like a multifaceted process, but the biggest thing I would say is there are just multiple forms of talent. So you have to find somebody that has a good combination of the things you're looking for.
I'm interested in how the recruiting process goes for you as well. And you've got runners from Canada and Puerto Rico and the Netherlands, Italy, Spain, wherever, all coming to Oxford, and tons of high school kids from the United States as well. It doesn't feel like there's the football aspect to it, where someone's tweeting, I'm now a 5-star because of Rivals, is saying as much. How do names come across your desk? How are coaches across the United States finding out about these great runners from both here in America and abroad?
Yeah, well, the internet's a great tool, first of all, especially just access to results, videos, the ability to get in touch with people from all over the world. So that's, obviously the biggest tool that any coach utilizes. But, in terms of how we recruit here and just sort of our process, we have a couple of different things that we look for. I think from a high school perspective, most of our recruits come from the Southeast region. So people that aren't super far away geographically, it's kind of where we start. We look for people who, oftentimes we may not get the absolute best high school recruits in a given year. A lot of times they may be interested in other programs, or maybe places that have been, established for longer than we have here. We've been successful here for 8 or 9 years, but, we're recruiting against programs like the Oregon, Stanford, Colorado, those places that have been good for 50, 60, 70 years. So, we still have a bit of an uphill battle that we fight there, but I think being really specific about knowing who we can get and focusing on those athletes. I think that's something that we really do a good job of, and not wasting a lot of time on people that we know, yeah, they might act like they're interested, but ultimately I know that person won't consider coming here. Just not wasting a lot of time on people that we know we can't get, and really focusing on a smaller number of people that we feel like we have a good chance of getting based on past history with recruiting. And then we also have a pretty heavy transfer presence. For whatever reason, early on here, we picked up a few transfers. They did well. I think based on our program reputation now, people just know that this is a place you can transfer to and typically find success. So we've been a bit of a safe haven for people from all over, but I think I really like that because it brings people from, all sorts of different regions, countries, different programs. So lots of different experience coming in. But yeah, basically from a high school perspective, we try to find something really specific about where we're looking, who we're looking for, and then, always open to transfers and international athletes. Oftentimes, for, you mentioned people overseas, a lot of that is just based on past recruiting or reputation as well. Just having athletes from those countries previously, or, they knew someone that ran here, a few years back, things like that. So a lot of times, oddly enough, some of the best people that transfer here are people that we find contact us first. Obviously, sometimes that doesn't happen. We reach out to them, and certainly we comb through video and stuff to find people that we like too. But I think as the program's gotten better, we've been more successful. I think the level of athlete that's interested in coming here has certainly gotten much better as the years have gone by.
You get to often travel abroad for the recruiting of the international athlete, or is it something that the world is so small with technology you can recruit them that way? Because I'm interested what your favorite place might have been you've gotten to go see someone run and then try to sit down on their couch and get them here to North Central Mississippi.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, prior to COVID, I did a fair amount of international recruiting, whether I've been to Europe, Africa, Australia. I think probably the coolest place I've been, I went to a meet in Uganda, the World University Cross Country Championships, where eventual world record holder Joshua Cheptegei ran and competed and won the race. And I got a chance to meet him, talk to him, and recruit him a little bit. So that's probably the coolest international experience. But, been to World Juniors, European Championships, things like that. So they're always fun. It's just so different from recruiting in the US. But yeah, and oftentimes too, you don't always have to recruit in person to get an international athlete. Obviously we've had quite a few transfers from overseas that have come in the last year and a half, and we haven't been able to do really any in-person recruiting at all. So really just depends on the situation. But of course, I think in recruiting, if you can get out and see them in person, meet their family, et cetera, that's always a bonus. So we like to do it when we can.
I hear you talk about competing with these top tier programs that have had all the success in cross country and in distance running over the years, but Ole Miss is in the mix now, and that's got to be exciting for you. But I hear that enjoyment in your voice about talking about the development of runners. How nice is that for you and for your staff, when whether you're a 4-star, 5-star, if you want to use that terminology, we're going to take you as a great runner and make you elite, but also you could be a walk-on or a 1-star level guy, and we're also going to make you elite. There's got to be some sort of sense of pride in that.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a super rewarding coaching experience when you can kind of be with someone by their side over 4 or 5 years, when they go from kind of a relative unknown to someone that is competing at the top of the NCAA. But obviously that can't be the only thing that your program does. You have to have some of the heavier star power right off the bat who also improves once they're here. Right now, if you look at our men's program, 2 guys that kind of fit that dichotomy of sorts, like Mario Garcia Romo, one of the best recruits in the world when he came here as a true freshman. Obviously he's improved quite a bit and is one of our absolute best athletes now, but his roommate, a guy named Baylor Franklin from Tennessee, was a guy that was very lightly recruited. I don't want to call him a 1 or 2-star because that'd be disrespectful, but he's a guy that we saw that we liked something about him, watching him run, how he raced. We knew he could develop. Now he's someone that is a NCAA caliber guy who, most people didn't know who he was 2 years ago, and also broke 4 minutes in the mile for a guy that ran 4:15 in high school. So, certainly both those guys are really big in terms of our program performance, et cetera, but kind of pathway to get here and development even though it's similar scale, obviously coming in the door, one guy was maybe a bit more high profile than the other, but you need recruits of both caliber, both getting better to have a really strong program.
I think our fans can understand the toughness of the SEC because they see it no matter what sport they're watching here for Ole Miss. And I know for us, the importance is SEC meets and then regional meets to get towards the national scale. To explain to our fans just how tough the region is, what would you say?
So, yeah, I mean, in cross country specifically, at the way our regional system works, there are only 2 automatic bids that are given out, and we have probably 30 or 40 teams in our region. So, you have to be really good on one day as a team to qualify for the NCAA. Now, there are at-large bids that are given out as well that are calculated more on how your team ran in the regular season. But a lot of our sport, even in track, I mean, being successful in terms of NCAA finish is all about being ready to go on a given day at the end of the season. So obviously the regular season matters to a degree, but in reality, we're judged on, SEC performance. That's a one-day thing. Regional level, it's do or die. You show up, run great, make nationals, or you don't, and you go home. And obviously the NCAA meet where in cross, you got 31 teams all going at it. So more so than anything for this sport, it's all based on like, you have to be ready to go on the day. So getting things done from a training perspective, organizing your year, everything has to be done with the last 2 or 3 races really being the most specific thing that you're working towards.
How do you get that across to 18 to 22-year-olds that you're going to have a lot of things happen, but the certain amount of moments you run in the big meets are the ones that matter, and you have to be ready for that specific moment?
Yeah, there's no substitute for experience. So, you do the best to try to educate and teach them along the way, but really they've got to go through it. And, if you ask a 4th or 5th year senior, the way that they do things now versus when they were a freshman, it's going to be a little bit different. Also having those athletes mentor the younger athletes in the program. But really just from the beginning of their time here, just trying to continue to drive home sort of our program principles, how we do things, why we do things the way we do, and really just trying to teach them about what really matters and what doesn't.
We've talked a lot about cross here, Coach, but it's really a year-round deal with cross country in the fall. Then you have indoor track and field and then outdoor track and field in the spring. And what Ole Miss is building as a whole across their track and field and cross country programs and the staff that Connie has put together with John, Andre, Holland, Brian. What can you say about what Coach Connie has done and how she's running this program and trying to build a powerhouse here at Ole Miss?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think she was the absolute right person for the job when they hired her 7 years ago. She's a great leader, someone who, very hard worker, very organized, knows exactly what she wants done, but she's also someone who allows the assistant coaches to really do their job. She's not a micromanager by any means. So I think if you are a really motivated assistant coach who, you like to work hard, you really want to be successful, she's a really great person to have in your corner. Great support, great mentor. Obviously, she has years upon years of track and field experience at a really high level. So not just as an athlete, but also as a coach. So, someone that you can talk to about various things that may come up, but also just a really good person. I think, anytime you have someone with really good values in the big seat in terms of leading a program, things are always going to kind of fall in line and be successful and just heading in the right direction anytime you got someone with good values leading the program. So definitely someone that I really respect, look up to. Obviously in terms of our staff, just people that like to work hard, people that want Ole Miss to be good. I think that's, it's a tough conference, right? Like the SEC is, as it is in any sport, is really competitive, but especially in track. I mean, every year, almost every program in the SEC is typically a top 25 type track program. So knowing the amount of work, motivation, those things that it takes to be successful as an athlete, but also as a coach in this league, just finding people that embody that and aren't afraid to do the work necessary to make Ole Miss great. I think she's done a good job of finding coaches that fit that.
And I think an amplification of that is what you talked about is your current athletes wanting to help the future stars develop while they're here. Well, you look across the roster of coaches for Ole Miss track and field and cross country, how many former athletes are volunteer assistants or GAs with the programs. And that's a special thing when you have former athletes want to stick around and try to help mentor the next class of great Ole Miss Rebels.
For sure. Yeah. I think for us too, like we have people that want to come back and be involved in the program, or, when they graduate, hey, I think I might want to coach, or even when we're talking to recruits that say, hey, I think I may want to coach as a career. Those are definitely people that we always want to keep close and try to help, because it really is a great profession. It's a great, really rewarding, it's a job, but not really. I mean, it's more of just I don't know how to even describe it. It's just, if you're really passionate about it, and particularly here at Ole Miss, it's a great place to be a coach. So I think anyone that we find that is motivated to want to do that and set their career off in that direction, then we certainly love to keep them close and help them if we can.
Well, the last thing I have for you is another volunteer assistant coach, is your wife, Michelle, and you get to coach alongside her. She was an athlete at UNCG during her collegiate career, and you two just had your first child together, your son, Hudson. What's all of that been like, the whirlwind of becoming a father, coaching with your wife, and building everything together in this chapter of your life?
Yeah, I mean, it really has been, especially the last year or two, some of the greatest years of my personal life. I love working with Michelle. I think if you look at the trajectory of our women's program, she's been here now. This is her third year working with us. We've gotten a lot better since she's been here on staff. I don't think that's a coincidence. But she brings such a great wealth of experience because she coached for many years on her own before we were married. And so I think, now instead of just having kind of one person that oversees the distance program, we have two coaches who have a good number of years of experience separate of each other. And so, she obviously had a lot of really high level results coaching by herself. So taking her experience and my experience and combining those, we have two sets of eyes, ears, two brains, just the ability to have someone who's equally as accomplished on their own working beside you has made a really big difference in literally every aspect of what we do. But also too, just having a family environment around our team. Our son comes to practice pretty much every day. So we call him Coach Huddy. He's around, I think, just showing people that, even if you are super passionate about coaching at a high level, there's more to it than just coming to work. Being a good family man, father, husband, all those things, a good parent. You don't have to sacrifice doing those things just because you have a job that requires a lot of hours of work or, takes a lot of time. So we try to make it fun, but, keep a kind of a family vibe around practice. And I think hopefully the team enjoys the baby being around. He does a pretty good job of timing workouts and we need him to help out. So
he's a lock for a sub 4-minute mile, right?
I'm going to be honest, if we're looking at it based purely on genetics, neither my wife or I were very good runners, and she wouldn't be mad at me for saying that because she knows it's true. Honestly, she was better than me. But I'm not sure that super high level running is in his future, but I hope that maybe high level coaching could be in his future.
There's no doubt about that. And a big year coming. The coach, the team is in the midst already of their fall season. And it's going to be a special season again here in 2021. Coach, appreciate your time. Super enjoyable to chat with you. And always, we wish the best for you and your family now as you guys have this family atmosphere around Ole Miss track and field.
Yeah. Thanks for hosting me on the pod. And I'll talk to you soon.